Hey, welcome back to the channel there, fellow weather junkies. I'm your host, Greg Majeski, your personal weatherman, bringing you to the weather without all that social media hype here on your Friday, September the 6th, 2024. Let's go ahead and take a look at those latest weather headlines, shall we? As what we're going to be seeing is definitely a nice little taste of fall for this upcoming weekend across the east. And of course, for every action is equal but opposite reaction. We're looking at record heat and very warm temperatures out in the west. Don't worry though. Looks like that cool shot in the east not going to last very long. We'll show you that here in the extended outlook as well. And then we're going to talk about the tropics. Are they about ready to go crazy or not? You know, we're waiting on this. We're nearing the peak of the hurricane season. It still remains eerily quiet out there. We'll take a look at the latest at the tropics as well. Now, before we get going, I want to thank all the new subscribers, and we're getting close to 4,300. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please consider it to be an honor and pleasure to be one of your weather sources out there in the YouTube universe. Please just hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you're alerted on future content, and give me a thumbs up if you appreciate this report, and leave me a comment down below. I do appreciate the feedback. All right, let's take a look at what's going on out there for this morning. We've got a frontal system here across the north. We've had some very wet and stormy conditions here along the Gulf Coast. This is one of our areas of disturbed weather here. Here's the other one out here. This is kind of a hybrid system out here out in the Atlantic, so I'm not too concerned about that one. But definitely some rainy conditions here across the deep south, kind of cloudy for most areas. But hopefully we'll clear this out for most areas and we'll see things begin to improve here for the weekend. Most of the areas out west just very hot and steamy, very dry out in the west from the northwest down to California. The southwest is that record trend of 100+ degree temperatures continues there in Phoenix. But overall, the eastern half of the United States is going to have a very nice weekend, especially with the cool air that's going to be filtering down here for the weekend. Here's the current surface map again, kind of wet and damp and rainy here across the Gulf Coast. We've got heavy rain chances here along the Gulf Coast as well with that system there. And you see temperatures here in the middle of the country at 40s and 50s. Very nice, very refreshing here for early September across the high plains as this cool air is going to be sweeping in across the mid-Atlantic and into the Northeast. In fact, some areas in the Northeast going into Sunday, man, get out of the 50s for highs. So kind of an upper level low is going to kind of spin up there as we go through the weekend. All right, let's look at your watches and warnings across the country. East looking very quiet. Hey, look at this. Woo, look at this. Frost advisories. First one we've seen so far of the season coming in from Minnesota into Wisconsin. And we got plenty of heat and dry weather out here and bad air. Idaho, look at that. Yuck. Bad air there in Idaho. So very hot, intense heat out here on the West Coast is going to continue, and definitely a fire danger, to say the least, with the dry conditions out there. And even got a few flash flood warnings here across portions of Mississippi here for this morning. I'll show you that here in a second as we're looking right here, right now. Here you go. We got this rain. It's been kind of what we call training, but sitting over the same ground between Meridian and Jackson right now. And we're going to have the heavy rain threat that's going to continue along the Gulf Coast here forward today until this thing kind of kicks on out of here. So definitely a wet and rainy start here across central portions of Mississippi from the Alabama state line all the way over, heading all the way over to Louisiana here for today. Now, our weather city of the day is also looking pretty wet and rainy today. This is Mobile, Alabama. Kind of cloudy, kind of damp in the area. They're going to be looking at rain likely here for today and high temperature around 81 degrees. And if you'd like to nominate your city as the weather city of the day, you know, of a good webcam on either YouTube or some other source, please just go ahead and paste that link down below and I'll consider it for a future broadcast. All right, time to take a look at what we're expecting from the Storms Prediction Center as far as the weather outlook here for today. Let's go ahead and take a look at this, as we do have one little area, one little pocket of marginal severe weather. That's going to be for areas up toward the Ohio River Valley. That's what we're looking at for this afternoon, that little green pocket right here. But generally just a general thunderstorm threat here. You got a little threat there across portions of Minnesota, a little bit out here toward the west, toward Oregon and California, and of course right along the Gulf Coast. Just looking at a general thunderstorm threat there for today. The day 2 outlook, and that's about as far as I can get you because there's a glitch with the pivotal weather for today. You're only going to show out to two days. So we're looking at here for your Saturday. Again, we'll be watching a frontal boundary that'll be starting to clear here. So just a general thunderstorm threat as that front moves on through out here on the East Coast. A little unsettled out here in the Intermountain region with some air mass thunderstorms out there. But generally not looking too bad here for the weekend. At least no organized severe weather expected here for today. Now, we are expecting heavy rain, though. That is in the cards here for this afternoon. As you can see, that area there, expecting some of that weather to be right along the Gulf Coast. That's going to be a bit of a problem there. And as we look at your day 2 outlook here going into tomorrow, again, that'll kind of slowly slink on down, just a marginal risk there from the Carolina coast back over toward Louisiana. And that'll kind of linger into day 3 as that boundary is just really not going to go anywhere over the next few days. So once again, recapping that severe weather outlook here for today. Here on your Friday, again, we're talking about Columbus, Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio, Cincinnati, Louisville, and Lexington, Fayette, there with that slight risk, that marginal risk for severe weather. Just some strong gusty winds will be the main threat there with a few of those thunderstorms that come along that frontal boundary here for today. All right, now we're going to shift gears, talk about the tropics. We're still waiting on Francine. It's hard to believe it is now September the 6th, officially 4 days from the peak of the hurricane season, and we've been stuck. We haven't had a named storm since August the 21st. And the dry trend continues as don't see anything there imminent out there to develop right now. Now, we do have multiple areas of concern out there. We got 4. Yesterday it was at 5. But none of these are imminent. Now, that one that's off the East Coast that's showing a 20% chance for development, that's kind of a hybrid. Whether they actually name it or not, I don't know. Probably not, I would think, on that. And then the 2 areas of disturbance in the Gulf, what's interesting there is there's pieces of energy that are kind of breaking off, going in 2 different directions. We may get something to develop there in the Bay of Campeche, maybe, and it'll be very close to the coastline if it does. So we'll see what happens with that. But those are the 4 areas. And then the one out there in the Atlantic, that one will depend on a very, very impressive wave that'll be coming off the Atlantic. The GFS and the European models are hinting at something there, and I'll show you that here in just a second as well. Now, as we take a look at what's going on in the satellite imagery, once again, just a very, not very impressive. I mean, the intertropical convergence zone is just not showing a lot of activity out there at all. A little bit of a swirl there. Here's our other disturbance here. And we've got this impressive wave that still hasn't come off the coast back off here over Africa that has to come off. But generally pretty quiet. Again, I was mentioning yesterday in the update that the Atlantic, as far as the global pattern, overall has been seeing a kind of a sinking air trend, while the Western Pacific, which has been extremely active, has been seeing the rising air, allowing thunderstorms to develop. So there's a bit of a pattern shift we're anticipating sometime around the 15th or so. So the Atlantic may start cooking then after the 15th. That's what right now most of your forecasters are discussing and kind of waiting on. Now, as we take a look at the latest ensemble models here, as I've got this into motion for you, you can kind of see there's a couple things I want to discuss here. In fact, let me go to my interactive mode here. I do want to kind of pause just a little bit here. Again, we're going to be watching this area in the Gulf to see what happens here. A little piece of energy, what's left of that system kind of drifts south, maybe merges with that other system. Of course, this is the quick moving system here moving off the coast. That's a kind of hybrid system. And then we'll watch, this one doesn't look all that impressive right now. But watch what we'll watch is this next big wave coming off the coast. This one right here. This one's probably showing the most promise as far as it's going to be the one that actually crosses the Atlantic and actually forms into something. We shall see on that. But again, we'll take this out till the end of the 10-day run as that moves generally off in a westerly direction here. It is awfully still far north as far as latitude. So I do suspect that this one, I don't know how close is it going to potentially get to the Gulf, to the United States. Typically, when they're that far north in latitude, they're going to get picked up and turned on off. But that'll be the system I'll be watching of the one out here, just to see what happens with this one. This one, again, if it does form, it'll be right along the coast. I don't know how much development we'll get with that one. So that's what's looking right now as far as the next 10 days are concerned with the ensemble model. Let's talk about the models here in a little more detail. Again, we're going to compare the European and the GFS models here. We're looking at the sea surface temperature pressure anomalies here. I beg your pardon on that. As the blue is your areas where you're getting the lower pressure. The yellow, that is indicative of higher pressure. So again, this is the European model that you're looking at here. You see that disturbance there kind of riding off here toward the north. With this system, again, this is kind of a hybrid system there. I'm not overly concerned about that one right now with that one. So again, watch that timestamp as we progress in the future. We're going to wait for that next wave to kind of come off here off the coast here. And you kind of see it there start to show its head there a little bit here as we go in through the next 10 days a little bit. You kind of see it there just a little bit, kind of spilling up a couple areas. So we'll be watching, is this going to form into something? Is this going to form into something? We will wait and see on that. as we go through the next 10 days. Now, we'll say this, the GFS model is a little more aggressive with this. You do see something here kind of bubbling up here on the tail end of the front here on the end of the 10-day here as we go in toward the 15th. Remember, again, we're anticipating things to get going sometime after the 15th, so the European's not quite picking up on the changes that we're anticipating at that time. So let's go ahead and switch over to the American GFS model here. Again, we'll take it to the same time period as we'll watch this closely. Again, we're still tracking that one system going up into Canada, not a big deal there. And then we'll see what happens with our next systems out here. You can see the big high up across the Azores. Still waiting to see if we get things going. It starts to get something forming here on the GFS around 207 hours or so. So they're showing something in here. You see it right there in the middle of the Atlantic as we go toward the following Saturday. So we're talking about the 14th of September there. And then this rides in, and it looks like it brings basically a hurricane potentially into the areas of the Windward and Leeward Islands there as we head toward the 16th of September at that time. And then it kind of weakens a bit. It gets down to, goes right past Puerto Rico, just to the south is the 967 hurricane there. And then it kind of weakens a bit with it interacts with the islands and then kind of moves off into the Yucatan. So a straight shot that comes all around. Then you see another system here trying to bubble up here going on out. Now remember, like I said, I kind of use anything beyond 10 days as a forecast trend. So this is kind of the end of the 10-day here, beyond 10 days. So anything beyond 10 days, you really kind of guess the work there. But definitely seeing a little more activity here on the GFS than the European model. Now we'll just have to wait and see if that comes to fruition or not. But right now, no tropical development expected here over the next couple of days. Now go ahead and shifting gears here as we take a look at the jet stream pattern across the continental United States here on the European here. As of course we're going to be tracking this shot of some cold air that's going to be coming here across the east with this nice little dip in the jet stream here across the east. Of course we got ridging out here in the west, so it'll be kind of warm and steamy out here in the west with those above normal temperatures anticipated in that part of the country. But don't worry, it's not going to. You're not going to stay cool here across the east for very long. Well, that's for sure. Is that big trough's going to start to lift on out as we go into early next week. In fact, a fairly quiet pattern to start the week for Monday and Tuesday. We do have another dip in the jet stream here coming down here out the west coast. So this is going to provide some relief, especially for the areas of the Pacific Northwest as far as the temperatures are concerned there. So that's about the only system I see kind of rolling in here. You see a little low there, kind of spinning up here, a little bit of energy here across the Intermountain region. So this will bring in maybe some thunderstorms as it pulls out of the Rockies into the plains as we head into the following week. So we're going into Thursday the 12th and into the 13th of September for that time frame. And it looks like that'll carry on out into the plains. And it looks like that's about it, really. Looks like things will be pretty quiet here across most of the country as we go in toward the end of the following weekend, going in toward the 15th of the month. Let's go ahead and take a look at the precipitation over that same time period. Again, watch that timestamp in the upper right corner. Obviously, we're looking at some pretty decent rains here along the Gulf Coast. It should be wrapping up on Saturday, although this area here is probably going to linger with the rains as that stationary boundary is just going to kind of sit there a little bit. And you'll have a little bit of clouds here kind of lingering on into Saturday and Sunday across portions of the northwest, northeast, I should say, as well, because of that low that's going to kind of linger in there. But other than that, most of the nation looking pretty quiet here over the weekend, except for a nice cool air mass in the east. But don't get used to it, folks. Again, it's not officially fall yet. Those temperatures are going to kind of modify as we go through next week. But pretty quiet here across most of the country as we're going through Wednesday and Thursday. Then we're watching that next system kind of swing in here a little bit. You see a little bit of thunderstorms here start to pop up here across some of the Intermountain region here as we're going into Friday. A little bit of rain here across some of the southern plains here. And it looks like some little bit of energy here ejecting off the eastern seaboard. We will watch that closely. Again, you never know when you get something to boil up on the tail end of a front or an old, get some thunderstorms to flare up there that could potentially become tropical. And you kind of see that lingering off the east coast here a little bit. So we'll watch this system out here in the west. Would not be surprised to see maybe a marginal risk or slight risk of severe weather for activity out here as that low begins to shift on out and kind of move out of the Rockies and into the high plains there as we go into the 13th and 14th of September. And then you kind of see it kind of really break out there late in the day on your Saturday there. So Thunderstorms there across Minnesota, switching back toward Kansas. Possibilities some active weather there as we go into the following weekend, as that low it begins to eject out of the Rockies and into the plains, and that'll continue to move off toward the east there with a cold front coming through here. But I don't see any real big cold tap coming into behind this of any real significance. So most of the country, by the time we get to the end of this 10-day, are going to see temperatures that are going to be, definitely modifying at or above normal for most of the nation, as the cool air is going to kind of recharge back up into Canada over that period. Let's take a look at the rainfall amounts here across the nation here over the next 10 days. Again, the Gulf Coast, as we were showing you earlier, that's going to be the ground zero for some of the heavier precipitation there. But you're going to get some rain there into areas of New England as well as that frontal system moves on through. So you've seen some rains here across New England, but obviously the heaviest rains will be right along the Gulf Coast here as that system begins to traverse the eastern seaboard here. And as that moves on out, again, that front's going to linger across the south. So those areas from the Texas Gulf Coast over into South Georgia are really going to see a lot of rain there. And then you see the response here for some more precipitation with that next little weak system coming into the plains and stuff. So the southeast definitely going to see the most of the rainfall. In fact, we'll go ahead and go in a little bit closer there and kind of talk about some of those different amounts there. I mean, if you're looking at potentially there, wow, we're talking rainfall amounts up to 9 inches in some cases down here across the Florida Panhandle. Louisiana showing 11 inches there. But generally anywhere in that red, you're looking at 4 to 5 inches of rain over the next 10 days. As that rain chances just kind of linger there just a little bit as well. So now that we're heading into the weekend, obviously we're going to have a kind of a tale of two seasons across the country. That's for sure. As you're looking at afternoon highs on Friday, temperatures because of the rain across the southeast running anywhere from 10 to 15 plus degrees below normal. We got the cool shot coming down here across the Great Lakes. Obviously this little pool here, very hot out west. The interior sections of the California valleys up into Washington State, we'll see temperatures into 100s for afternoon highs, really not only for Friday but continuing into Saturday as well. So watch that timestamp there as we go ahead and head into your weekend. Again, we're seeing that nice little cool pool there come down across the east. A lot of blue here across the eastern half of the United States. It is cool here, obviously. I can spell a little cool. We'll spell it cool there, but it is H-O-T out here in the west. It is a tale of two cities, two seasons really, across the nation here as we go into your upcoming weekend here. So that's for your Saturday afternoon. Again, we're going to watch that timestamp. The one thing you're going to notice as we progress through this, again, we're looking at pretty cool temperatures there for Sunday morning. It's going to feel very nice here across the areas of the Midwest and into the Northeast. So morning lows down in the 40s, feeling pretty nice there. Very, very comfortable. And then we'll see things begin to modify as we go throughout next week. You're going to notice that blue kind of slowly but surely start to fade away. It's almost gone as we kind of going in through Monday and Tuesday. More and more of the red replacing the country. You notice how temperatures rebounding here in the high plains, running anywhere from 10 to 13 degrees above normal here. Starting to get a little bit of a breakout here on the west coast a little bit. Finally starting to cool off just a little with that next storm system coming in out there. And as we progress this thing through the rest of the model run, looks like we can see some more rain down here, obviously, and the temperatures being suppressed there across the deep south from Texas over to Alabama. Here comes the cooler weather out here into Washington State and Oregon and in California, much needed there, but big swath of the country here, seeing a big warm up here coming from the foothills of the Rockies all the way into the Northeast, obviously, as temperatures begin to rebound. And pretty much by the time we get to the end of this model run, pretty much all that blue, what's left of it, it is pretty much gone. It looks like a lot of the country will see at or above normal temperatures for a big swath of the country as we go in toward the end, going into the following weekend, heading toward the 15th of the month. So get ready for those changes coming your way. So kind of recapping this, we can look at your climate outlook here. Again, as we're looking at below normal temperatures here a little bit, mostly because of the cloud and rain cover mostly here across the deep south, above normal, big time here across the high plains from the 11th to the 15th, as we were just showing you. Again, the cool down out west, we saw that as well from days 6 through 10. And then days 8 through 14, most of the country looking at above normal temperatures here, near normal across the south, and normal out on the west coast. Precipitation-wise, no big major storm systems out there, so we're looking at below normal precipitation here from the northeast to the Midwest and stretching back into here to the southwest. A little bit of activity here across the Pacific Northwest, obviously with the cool down coming that way and staying wet with that old boundary here across the deep south. And obviously we'll have to watch the tropics and see what happens there. This is the 11th to the 15th, and then the 13th to the 19th, again, below normal precipitation across the Midwest, heading into New England. and fairly normal for a big chunk of the country there, and still looking at above normal precipitation just there along the Gulf Coast. So, not looking too bad there. Looks like a pretty good weekend in store for us here for a lot of the country. Obviously, you got to deal with those heavy rainfall amounts across the southeast and the Gulf Coast. Again, pay attention to the tropics. We're at the peak of the hurricane season. Right now, again, a lot of the thinking is after the 15th of the month, conditions will change in the Atlantic, which should allow a little more development. There's still plenty of latent heat, temperatures above normal in the tropics. And I mean, you got to have hurricanes to take care of that imbalance. And I think we'll see things pick up here probably for the second half of the month of September. I know it's not like a broken record. We've been kind of talking about this for weeks, but it's been very unusual to see activity the way things have been going so far this year. All right, hey, if you enjoyed the report, now please do me a favor. If you'd like to make this a regular feature in your YouTube feed, just hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you're alerted on future content. If you like this report, leave me a comment down below and give me a thumbs up and share it with your friends. I like to invite as many folks here in the YouTube universe to this page. All right, that's your update for now. You guys take it easy, be good, stay safe, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.